Before this video starts, I just want to give a massive shout out to all my channel members. If you want to receive a shout out, then become a channel member today and you'll be shown on screen like all these other channel members here. Anyways, enjoy the video. Hello, today I am going to be doing a Pokemon Platinum Hardcore Nuzlocke in which I can only use Pokemon that were introduced in Generation 3, or as I like to call it, a Hoennloke. If you're wondering what a Nuzlocke is, in short, it is a challenge in which you can only catch the first Pokemon on every route. Pokemon must be nicknamed, and the biggest rule of them all, if a Pokemon faints, you must put it in the box or release it. What a Hardcore Nuzlocke adds is that you can't get over the level cap of the gym leader's ace. For example, I can't get past Rourke's Cranidos level 14 cap until I battle Rourke. I also can't use items in battle. This means no potions, X items, or anything like that. Lastly, the battle mode must be switched to set mode. Set mode just means that the trainer immediately sends in their next Pokemon if they have more than one Pokemon. I am also running Species Clause, and for Mount Coronet, since it has a ton of different encounter tables, we will be treating it with the Pinwheel Clause. When looking at the list of available encounters, they're quite a mixed bag of Pokemon, because you have an amazing special attacker in Gardevoir, and on the other side you have Azuril, who has the lowest base stat total for the entire Sinnoh Pokedex and the third lowest across the entire series. The Sinnoh region is known for its tough trainer fights, making Platinum a fun game to Nuzlocke for many people. This idea was inspired by my own Pokemon Sinnohlocke I did for Pokemon Black 2, so after you're done watching this video, why not go check out that one? If this video hits 750 likes, I will do another one of these Nuzlocke challenges. Before we get started, I just want to say that if you enjoy the content on this channel, then be sure to subscribe, as this lets me know that this is the sort of content you guys want, and like the video if you enjoyed it. Also, when you're done watching this, comment down below on what you thought was the most intense part of the Nuzlocke. Anyways, let me tell the endearing tale of how I beat a Pokemon Platinum Hardcore Nuzlocke by using only Hoenn Pokemon. We start our journey by Barry barging into our room, screaming at the top of his lungs for us to get out of our room or else he's gonna find us $1 million. We then attempt to run into the grass before being interrupted by Professor Rowan, who then gives us our starter choice. I then went for Piplup because, I mean, come on, it's the water starter, and if you know anything about Hoenn, it has a lot of water in it. We then cruise through Sandgem Town and Jubilife City until we get to Route 204, in which we can pick up our first Pokemon, a Budew. Now, while Budew may be a Pokemon that was introduced in these games, Budew evolves into a Generation 3 Pokemon, Roselia. So I then named her Poison Ivy and spent the next long while running to build up our friendship and had to do some slight time manipulation to get it to evolve into a Roselia, since Budew can only evolve during the day. With that, we officially have our actual starter Pokemon. After handing our rival his first of many L's, I then marched all the way to Oreburgh City, in which I found Rourke in the mines and told him to get back to his gym to be the most difficult, painstakingly hard, intense boss in all of Pokemon. He leads with Geodude as I send in Roselia, my only Pokemon with his 3. How am I gonna win this? So, as I sat there, thinking that this maybe was a bad idea, nah, I'm just kidding, I one-shot his Geodude, Onix, and Cranidos with Mega Drains, earning me the Coal Badge from Rourke. I then hear news of a shady organization called Team Galactic, who is currently raiding the Valley Windworks, and this upcoming fight is actually terrifying, as Mars carries 2 Pokemon. Her Zubat isn't too bad, but the real threat lies with Purugly, a Pokemon with an extremely high base stat at this point in the game of 452, with 82 attack and 112 speed, which ensures this cat will outrun everything at this point in the game. It also carries Fake Out, a priority move that makes us flinch while also dealing some damage against us. So this is how the first fight against Mars went. She sends in her Zubat as I lead with my only Pokemon, Roselia. Since this Zubat doesn't actually have any flying moves, I can comfortably use 2 growths before going for a Mega Drain to recover some health. The Zubat keeps biting me, but I eventually take it out. Purugly comes out and uses Fake Out, but activates my Poison Point ability, meaning I'm able to get off some damage anyways thanks to the poison damage. Purugly then goes for a Feint Attack, leaving me with 9 HP, but then I can nearly take it out with a Mega Drain, healing up back to half. I then can take it out with 1 more Mega Drain, finishing one of the hardest early game fights for any Nuzlocke. I can then go to Eterna Woods and help Cheryl get to the end of the woods, but first I can encounter a Silcoon and I named them Firefly. After some leveling, we can evolve him into a Beautyfly, who will be super useful for Gardenia's gym. After leaving Eterna Forest and healing at Eterna City's Pokemon Center, I then went to the northern half of Route 205 to pick up a Cascoon, who I named Killer Moth. However, since I get this Cascoon at level 14, this means we can't get a Dustox with Gust, meaning we don't have another Pokemon to fall on if Beautyfly gets 2 damage, so we can only use them for defensive pivots for the moment. After getting everyone grinded up to the level cap of 22, it is time to take on Gardenia. She leads Turtwig as I lead Beautyfly. I go for Gust to nearly KO, but Turtwig just survives. However, it just sets up Reflect. This is huge because that means I can use up her Super Potion. Next turn I take out the Turtwig. Next is Cherrim. Cherrim goes for a Magical Leaf, and due to my Bug and Flying type, it does nothing at all. I then take it out with 2 Gusts. Last is the main threat of Roserade. It goes for Grass Knot as I use another Gust. However, I get it to Citrus Berry range, meaning it would take 2 more turns to take it out. However, she then pulls out another Super Potion to heal up Roserade. I then keep gusting it, and after one last desperate Grass Knot, I take out the Roserade and receive the Forest Badge. Anyways, I head east to Route 211 to pick up a Chingling, and I name her Talia. However, just like Badoo, we have to evolve her so we can get Chimecho. I also go to Mount Coronet and encounter a Meditite. I then named him Calculator. After that, I raided the Galactic Building in Eterna City, and here we come across another really scary fight. This time it's with Jupiter, and unlike with Mars' Zubat, hers actually knows a flying move, so I can't set up with Roselia. Also, her Skuntank is a very dangerous Pokemon, as this thing's high health stat along with a 93 base attack makes her both bulky and a hard-hitting foe. Plus, this thing carries Night Slash, a powerful Dark-type move that has a boosted crit chance. So I had to plan around dealing with this Skuntank. Eventually, I came up with a plan. I lead in with my Chimecho as she leads Zubat. I nuke the Zubat with the Confusion before it could do anything against me to get Skuntank out. This is where Dustox will shine. Dustox is somewhat bulky for the early game, and is the only way I can ever beat this Skuntank without losing a Pokemon. I switch as I get hit by a Night Slash. The goal here now was to stall Skuntank out of all of her Night Slash PP by spamming Protect to stall a turn and Moonlight to recover our health. If on a return she doesn't go for a Night Slash and I had used Moonlight before, or I protected at full health, I would use Harden to help me handle the Night Slashes better. However, this whole plan hinges on me on not dying to a Night Slash crit, and at some point, she does get the crit. However, I'm able to survive on literally 1 HP and recover with Moonlight. I then attempt to keep healing after protecting. After I was confident she was out of Night Slashes, I swap to Roselia and get hit by a Smokescreen. However, she then goes for one last Night Slash, bringing Roselia below half, but then I get a Leech Seed off and I swap back to Dustox. Now that I actually have some damage going to Skuntank, I just need to stall her out until she dies of Leech Seed damage. Eventually, this skunk falls to the power of stalling Leech Seed. After saving the bike shop owner from Team Galactic's grasp, I can get a free bike from him and head all the way down to a more southern spot in Mount Coronet and meet this very strange, sad little man who doesn't get emotions. I'm sure he won't have anything to do in this story later on. I can then go to Route 208 and catch one of our biggest encounters, a Ralt, who I named the Riddler. I then went into the Pokestar contest building and challenged Fantina in the building, but she declined and told me to meet her in her gym. Now, Fantina is one of the most difficult gym battles a Nuzlocke will face because of her Mismagius, who is extremely fast for this point of the game, is very bulky on the special side, and hits like a truck, especially with Stab Shadow Ball, with Confuse Ray being a nasty supporting move. Though this doesn't discount her Dusk Call, who can inflict burns with Will-O-Wisp and land priority Shadow Sneaks. Her Haunter can also be a threat, but is usually able to be treated the most easily out of the 3, since it isn't doing much with that base 50 attack. The fight can now begin as I lead Chimecho as she leads Duskull. I set up a Yawn against it to try putting it to sleep and get hit by a Pursuit. I then begin spamming Confusion as they use Will-O-Wisp before falling asleep. I get Fantina to use a Super Potion as I land a crit Confusion, bringing Duskull back down, but it wakes up and I get hit by a Shadow Sneak before I can finish it off with another Confusion. I then end up with 9 HP as she sends in her Mismagius. I then swap to Killer Moth to tank a Shadow Ball, and I was going to attempt to stall it out like I did with Skuntank. However, I then get hit with a Confuse Ray and hit myself with Confusion. I then get hit by a Psybeam, leaving me at 6 HP, and I attempt to recover with Moonlight. However, as fate would have it, I get hit by Confusion again, causing the first death of the run. I then went into Beautifly to try paralyzing it with the Stun Spore, but before I could paralyze it, I got hit with the nasty Shadow Ball. I then attempt to recover for a bit with Morning Sun, but then she breaks through paralysis and I get hit with the Shadow Ball and get the special defense drop. Wow, what luck I'm having during this battle. I then Morning Sun again, but then I get hit with a Psybeam, effectively resetting my healing. Repeat once more and I actually get a Morning Sun off while she gets paralyzed. I then go for a Mega Drain, and here you can see her sheer bulk on the special side as she takes barely any damage and Beautifly falls to a Shadow Ball. I then sit there for a short while, deciding on who I would use before I sent in Talia to try landing a Confusion, and I get lucky and get her confused, and as she hits herself with Confusion, this drops her into Citrus Berry range, and then Talia succumbs to injuries caused by her burns. I then have no other choice to go with Poison Ivy and set up a Growth before being hit with the Psybeam that takes half of my health. I am then able to hit a Giga Drain, dealing some nice damage, and with the Shell Bell, I can recover some extra health. She then hits herself with Confusion again, meaning I can secure this kill next turn. Her powerful Mismagius finally falls after 3 sacrifices were made so we can finish this battle against her Haunter, and in which we trade Giga Drains and Shadow Claws until I end up beating the Haunter and winning the Relic Badge from Fantina. With the fight being over, I say goodnight to Talia, Killer Moth, and Firefly. Rest in peace, you 3. With half of my team wiped and with the squad I currently have with Poison Ivy, Calculator, and Riddler, I had to train up the squad a bit. Actually, I should say that now that the level cap is over level 30, I evolved Kirlia into a Gardevoir and nuke Barry's entire team with a Gardevoir after setting up a singular Calm Mind. I then go get my next encounter on Route 209, a Duskull of my own, and this Pokemon will be a key player for this team, effectively being our defensive wall as Dusclops is a pretty beefy Pokemon that can spread Will-O-Wisps, which will be super useful for the high amount of physical attackers we will have to face off. I decided to name her Black Mask and get her caught up with the rest of the team. Since Veilstone Gym is also around the corner, I can get ready to take on Maylene and her fighting types. She leads with the Meditite as I lead Poison Ivy. I set up Growths as she uses a Rock Tomb to lower my speed. I then get hit by a Confusion, which does way less damage compared to Rock Tomb due to Meditite's pure power ability despite Confusion being both super effective and stab. Then she sends in her Machoke, which I also use Giga Drain on, bringing it to about 25% health, but they just go for a Focus Energy, so that's a free kill for me. Last is her Lucario, and being part Steel type, I can't hit her for much damage, so after taking a powerful Metal Claw, I set up a Leech Seed so I could get passive recovery for Duskull, who takes another Metal Claw. However, since it does less than half, I can use Confuse Ray to try getting Lucario to hit themselves. But before I can hit her with it, I take another brutal Metal Claw. Since Duskull can't take another one, I swap it to Calculator and Lucario hits another Metal Claw. Lucario then snaps out of Confusion and I once again get hit by a nasty Metal Claw, but I just barely survive it and take it out with a single Force Palm, earning me the Cobble Badge. In the meantime, I rig the casinos to get a small loan of 50,000 coins to get some very powerful TMs, including Psychic and Thunderbolt for the Riddler. After dealing with some Team Galactic goons, I make my way to Pastoria City, but along the way, I pick up a Wingull on Route 213 and name him Barbatos. As I make my way to the gym, my rival made a big mistake in picking a fight with me as I nuked his entire team. I get the whole squad to the level cap once again, and in this process, Black Mask becomes a wonderful Dusclops and picks up Will-O-Wisp along the way. Calculator also ends up evolving right at the level cap, becoming a Medicham. After the team is all set up, I then begin my wavy battle with Crasher Wake. He leads his Gyarados as I lead the Riddler, and I just nuked it with the Thunderbolt, 4 times weakness, you know? Then out comes the Floatzel. Since I figured he was gonna go for Crunch, I swap it to Calculator to take the hit. I then get hit by a Brine as I attempt to go for a Force Palm. I end up paralyzing the Floatzel, and since I had a feeling I could outspeed, I then go for another Force Palm, but I barely don't get the kill, but since I trigger a Citrus Berry, I don't have to worry about him getting potioned. I then just barely survive the Brine, and then after that, I can take him out with another Force Palm. His last Pokemon is a Quagsire, and after swapping into Poison Ivy and taking a Mud Shot, I can take down this derpy friend with the Giga Drain, earning me the Fen Badge. Once we step outside, we hear a plot of Team Galactic attempting to commit an act of terrorism by planting a bunch of bombs at the 3 Lakes of Sinnoh, but I got bigger things to worry about, you know? After they detonate the bomb, I hunt down this Grunt and blow up his Krogunk with the singular Psychic from Gardevoir. Cynthia then gives me some eddies to give to the Psyduck that are freaking out on Route 210, and afterwards, I go to the Great Marsh to pick up a Tropius, who I name Kite Man. As I was walking through the foggy section of the map, I caught myself a Swablu, who I named Talon. After going through a wild gauntlet of trainers, I make it to Celestic Town where I pick up our Swablu, and after some leveling, she evolves into a beastly Altaria. I then once again rig the casinos to give me access to Ice Beam and Flamethrower, which will be super important moves for our team. Back in Celestic Town, I demolish this Grunt's team, and after looking at the cool cave paintings, the blue-haired guy starts rambling on how emotions are bad, and we end up fighting him in the cave. As it turns out, this blue-haired man was none other than Team Galactic's boss, Cyrus. He leads Sneasel as I have a Gardevoir out. I swap the Calculator as I'm hit by a Screech. I can then take out Sneasel with a Force Palm, but not before getting hit by a nasty Ice Punch. Out comes Golbat as I swap into Talon and effortlessly tank an Air Cutter. I get hit by Poison Fang and end up getting poisoned as I Ice Beam to deal with just over half of the Golbat's health. After taking one more Poison Fang, I can take out Golbat with another Ice Beam. However, seeing as I'm running low on health, I have to swap to Barbatos, in which he has to tank 2 Drill Pecks before I can begin stalling by spamming Roost until I run out of Roosts. I then begin spamming Water Pulse, get Murkrow confused, and have Murkrow hit themselves with Confusion. After Cyrus attempts to heal, I take out his Murkrow and drive Cyrus out of town. I then venture my way to Caniclave City and run into a surprise rival fight that I forget is here when you're on your way to the gym, and because of this, I end up with the Riddler leading against Staraptor. Thankfully, I can nuke it with the Thunderbolt. Then out comes Heracross, who meets the same grisly fate with the Psychic. Then out comes Floatzel, who hits me with the Surprise Pursuit before I can switch into Poison Ivy. I get hit again with the Pursuit, but they get poisoned by my Poison Point ability. I then hit it with the Giga Drain, which combined with the poison damage takes them out. Then out comes Rapidash, and for this, I switch into Barbatos, predicting a fire move, but for some reason they just hit me with the Tail Whip. After being hit with another Tail Whip, I then go for a Surf. I attempt to use Quick Attack to take it out, but due to receiving too many attack drops, I can't quite get the KO and get hit by a powerful takedown before they die to recoil. Last is his Torterra, and since I have an Altaria with an Ice Beam, I go to Altaria and use 2 Ice Beams to take it out. Now that we are done with this fight, I can go take on Byron's gym, and after melting all of the steel types, I can go meet the man himself. However, I need to say that his Bastiodon is a very scary Pokemon, especially due to the fact that it carries Metal Burst. Metal Burst is a move that deals 1.5 times the damage back to the target that previously hit the user. The damage this thing can pull off with the Metal Burst is known to catch so many people off guard, leading to many deaths, and because of the sheer bulk it has, there's a good chance they'll get at least one off. Byron leads Magneton as I lead Talon. I use a flamethrower to barely take it out, but I get lucky enough with the burn, so after a Thunderbolt, Magneton falls. Bastiodon then comes out, and as I'm predicting a Stone Edge, I swap it to Calculator, and since my calculations were correct, it does go for a Stone Edge, but ends up missing anyways. I then go for a Force Palm, hoping to get the kill, but I sadly don't and get hit with a devastating Metal Burst that leaves me with 2 HP. I then try going into Barbatos, but then I eat a devastating Stone Edge, nearly taking me out. I nail it with the Surf, but it barely survives. It goes for Stone Edge, but it misses, so I can hit it with another Surf. One more Surf takes out this intimidating foe. Last is Steelix, and predicting the Ice Fang, I go to Black Mask and try to Will-O-Wisp to cut his attack in half, but not before getting hit with an Earthquake. Since his attack is now cut in half, his next strongest move is now Flash Cannon, which it goes for as I try confusing it. After this, I go into Poison Ivy to use Giga Drains. I get hit with the Flash Cannon as I'm coming in, but after 2 Giga Drains, I can finish off Steelix and beat Byron, the 6th gym leader, and earn me the Mind Badge. We then listen to Professor Rowan's plan about researching the Lake Guardians, but as soon as he's about to explain what I'm gonna do, Team Galactic bombs Lake Valor, and Dawn, Barry, and I have to go split up and to handle all these Team Galactic commanders at each lake. I then head to Lake Valor and find Saturn sitting in the cave and take him on due to his plan severely affecting the local trout population. He leads Golbat as I lead Gardevoir. I nuke Golbat with the Thunderbolt and Bronzor comes out. I then switch to Altaria and I'm hit with the rather weak Rock Tomb. It then takes 2 flamethrowers to roast the Bronzor. Last is his Toxicroak, in which I switch back into Gardevoir, but I take a really nasty Poison Jab and get poisoned, so I switch to Pelipper and get hit with another devastating Poison Jab, which also poisons me. I then make the move to swap out into Dusclops, predicting the next Poison Jab. I then get hit by a hard-hitting Feint Attack as I burn the Toxicroak to drop their attack by half. I then swap into Altaria and take another Feint Attack. Then I get hit by a Wicked Poison Jab and get poisoned again, and after using Dragon Breath, I swap into Medicham and finish off the Toxicroak with the Confusion. Afterwards, I go to Lake Verity to do battle with Mars. She leads Golbat as I lead Gardevoir, who I nuke with the Psychic. Then out comes Perugly, who I'm expecting a fake out from, so I swap into Dusclops. I then attempt to Will-O-Wisp, but then get put to sleep by Hypnosis. Then I swap to Medicham to try Force Palming it, and I get hit by a Slash. I then land a hit and get Perugly paralyzed. Though knowing how fast this thing was, I didn't feel comfortable staying in, so I swapped into Altaria, but I got hit by a Hypnosis. I then attempt to break through the sleep for 2 turns, but I didn't, so I swap into Dusclops to absorb a Slash. Knowing that her only other move she can use is Feint Attack, I swap into Kite Man, who finishes the job. Last is Bronzor, and I swap to Pelipper. After landing 3 Surfs, I can then take out the Bronzor, finishing the battle. After this, I make my way all the way up to Snow Point City to challenge the 7th gym leader, and along the way, I pick up Snorunt, who I named Killer Frost. After some leveling, she evolves into a beautiful Glalie. After I make my preparations, I take on the person whose name I don't remember. She leads Sneasel as I lead Calculator. After taking an Aerial Lace, I can one-shot Sneasel with the Force Palm. Next comes her big cheese, Frostlass. Predicting a Shadow Ball, I swap into Killer Frost to tank one, but then she goes for a Blizzard instead. I then go for a Crunch as she sets up a double team. I then get hit by a Shadow Ball and get Special Defense dropped, but I land a Crunch. She gets out of potion range because of her Citrus Berry. Since Frost can't take any more hits from Frostlass, I swap into Barbatos and get hit by a powerful Psychic. She then attempts to go for Blizzard, but she misses and I can take her out with the Surf. Next comes Piloswine, and predicting a Stone Edge, I swap into Black Mask. I then use Will-O-Wisp to cut her attack in half as she sets up the Hail. I then go for a Confuse Ray to make her confused as she then goes for an Avalanche, but since I didn't attack her, it doesn't do too much. I then swap into the Riddler as Piloswine hits herself in confusion. I then begin setting up my Calm Minds to boost my special attack, but Piloswine breaks out of confusion and I get hit by an Earthquake. I then set up another Calm Mind and get hit by an Avalanche and the Hail stops. I then use Psychic to finish off Piloswine and blast the incoming Abomasnow with another Psychic, winning the Ice Gem and getting the Icicle Badge from whoever this person's name was. Yo, can you guys help me remember who this person was? I forgot what their name was, but just let me know in the comments down below who this person was. After walking into a bloodbath at Lake Acuity between Barry and Jupiter, she storms off to Veilstone City back to Galactic HQ and I follow suit. After raiding the compound, I hear Cyrus give one of the best speeches in town.
Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier and welcome to Five Nights at Freddy's.
After this amazing speech, I attempt to get his autograph, but then he rambles on about emotions again, and then I realize he was a 27-year-old man who suffers from some major depression, and instead of getting the help he needed, he sought to destroy the very idea of emotions because he thinks they're the source of what is wrong with the world. So if you're feeling low in your life, reach out to your loved ones, and if you know someone who's going through some tough stuff in their life, be sure to reach out to them and let them know that you care about them. Anyways, since people actually care about their emotions, we have to put a stop to his plan of destroying the universe. He leads Sneasel as I lead Calculator. After Sneasel misses a Screech, I can one-shot it with the Drain Punch. Next comes Crobat. I swap into the Riddler as I get hit by a Supersonic. I then get hit by a Bite and hit myself in confusion. Since that wasn't working, I went into Black Mask and took another Bite. I then get flinched by another Bite, bringing Black Mask to unsafe levels of health, so I swap her out for Talon to take another Bite. I then dodge a Supersonic and hit it with an Ice Beam. After taking a Poison Fang, I take out a Crobat with another Ice Beam. Last is his Honchkrow, and here is where I have to make another sacrifice. I send in Poison Ivy to take a super effective Drill Peck, one-shotting her. May she rest in peace. Her sacrifice was not in vain, as I can get Killer Frost in safely. After I take another Drill Peck, I can one-shot Honchkrow with a single Avalanche, finishing this battle with Cyrus. Afterwards, I battle against Saturn with his yee-ass haircut and get confused by his Golbat before bringing it down below half. I then snap out of confusion and can finish it off with an Ice Shard. Next is his Bronzor, and for this, I crunch it, but due to the laws of time and space, it isn't weak to Dark yet, and even then it doesn't do too much damage, so I send in Black Mask, who easily shrugs off a Gyro Ball. I then burn the disc and get hit by a Shadow Ball. I can then take it out in 2 Shadow Punches. Last is Toxicroak, who feint attacks me, and I miss Will-O-Wisp, so I have to switch into Barbatos and get hit with the feint attack. I then get hit by a Poison Jab, and Wing Attack deals less than half, so I swap into Talon, who also takes a ton of damage from 2 Poison Jabs. I then use a Dragon Breath on it and I don't get it paralyzed. I then swap into Calculator, who is hit by a feint attack. I then take it out with another Confusion, ending him and releasing the Lake Guardians. I then make my way through the different sections of Mount Coronet and pick up a Nosepass named Penguin, and in the snowy outdoors, an Absol named Lady Shiva. After reaching the top of Mount Coronet into Spear Pillar, I then take on both Mars and Jupiter one last time. Barry comes last second to team up with me, and so begins one of the most hectic double battles ever. They both lead Bronzors as I lead Calculator and Barry leads Munchlax, and I need to say that I really should have just KO'd the Munchlax first so I can get a better Pokemon out onto the field. Anyways, since my hidden power was fire, I hit a Bronzor with it and it doesn't really do a whole lot. I keep hidden powering these Bronzors. Light Screen is set up so I can't take it out and get confused by one of the Bronzors. I then get hit by Confusion, but Munchlax can finish off the Bronzor with a Body Slam. Out comes Golbat, and expecting to get hit by a flying move, I swap into Killer Frost, but get hit with the Sludge Bomb and Gyro Ball combo instead, nearly killing Frost as Munchlax just uses Stockpile. Because of my low health, I have to swap into the Riddler, but then I get poisoned and lose half my health. I then nuke the Golbat with the Psychic as Bronzor sits up a screen. Skuntank comes out, and expecting a dark move and my lack of proper switches, I went into Kite Man, but then lose half of my health. Then expecting a poison move, I then swap into the Black Mask and get poisoned, but I can burn the Skuntank safely since they double target the Munchlax. I then attempt to chip Skuntank with a Shadow Sneak, but Skuntank takes out Munchlax as I'm hit with an Extra Sensory. Barry's Staraptor then comes out as I swap into Calculator, and with the second Bronzor gone, we get to see Mars's Purugly. I get very lucky with a Quick Claw proc and get to heal for free against the Purugly with the Drain Punch, taking it out instantly. Staraptor plus the burn is just not enough to take out Skuntank. Out comes Barry's Rapidash as Mars sends in her Golbat. Quick Claw procs again, and I get Golbat to a third with return and handle an Air Cutter well enough as Rapidash ends Skuntank. With one more return, I can finish off Golbat, ending this wild fight. Cyrus, after capturing Dialga and Palkia, attempts to get them to birth another universe. However, another Pokemon appears from the shadows, consuming Cyrus and opening a rift to the Distortion world. The universe then begins to collapse as this rift remains open and we have to get it closed. The Guardians follow into the portal, as do I and Cynthia. After going on a vomit-inducing gravity trip around the place and pushing rocks, I finally make it to Cyrus once again. Now this time, he is packing some serious heat on his team, and this Cyrus fight is considered one of the hardest fights in the game due to the fact that so many of his Pokemon are fast and they all hit like trucks. Plus, they're loaded with wide coverage moves. I really had to plan for this, especially since I could only use 5 Pokemon due to carrying my HM Pokemon. So, this is how this wild fight goes. Cyrus leads Houndoom as I lead Calculator. I can one-shot the Houndoom with the Drain Punch. Then out comes Honchkrow, and for this, I swap into the Riddler to take a Drill Peck, then I nuke it with the Thunderbolt. Out comes Weavile and I swap back into Calculator, who takes an X-Scissor. I then get hit by an Ice Punch that nearly takes me out, but then I can one-shot it with another Drain Punch. Then Crobat comes out, and since I'm at a pretty good amount of health, I stay in to use Return, but before I can, I get Toxiced. I take about half of its health before switching to Killer Frost, who takes an Air Slash. I then use Ice Shard to try getting the KO, but I just barely don't get it and get hit by a Confuse Ray. Cyrus then heals Crobat as I hit myself with Confusion. I then get hit by a Cross Poison, barely surviving, and I can hit back with an effective base 120 power Avalanche due to being hit in the first place. Last is the Gyarados, and for him, I swap it to Black Mask as I get hit by an Ice Fang. I then get hit by a Waterfall, but then I can fire back with the Will-O-Wisp, cutting his attack in half once again. I then go into Kite Man, who handles a Waterfall extremely well. Now here is something that's pretty whack. The burn that the Gyarados has makes it so that a 4 times super effective Ice Fang doesn't even deal half of my health. I then begin stalling it out with Synthesis and Fly as Gyarados slowly burns alive, and I get chip damage with Fly. After barely surviving another Ice Fang, I can Synthesize again, and one more Ice Fang Synthesize exchange, Gyarados burns to a crisp, ending this fight without any fatalities. Giratina, sensing our presence, demands that we fight it. However, I just simply tell it to fuck off, so ends the Team Galactic saga. After telling Professor Rowan I am A-OK, I then rush to Sunyshore City to get the other depressed man out of the city lighthouse to get him to take me on in his gym. I do some background preparation. The biggest thing is getting Earthquake for Glalie. Now, Volkner's team in Diamond and Pearl was certainly a team, but in Platinum, Game Freak remembered that they actually have more than 2 electric types and gave him a full electric team. Volkner leads the battle with a Jolteon as I lead Calculator. I go for a Drain Punch as I'm paralyzed with a Thunder Wave. I get hit by a Charge Beam, but I break through paralysis and take it out with another Drain Punch. Out comes Electivire, and expecting something like Giga Impact, I swap into Black Mask, but I get hit by 2 Thunder Punches before burning Electivire. I then chip it down with Shadow Punches and burn damage before he heals with the Hyper Potion. I mistakenly go for a Shadow Sneak instead of Shadow Punch. Now that my health is too low, I swap into Killer Frost to take a Thunder Punch before I could use Earthquake to take it out. Then comes Raichu, and expecting a Focus Blast, I go into Talon to take a hit. I then use Natural Gift, and since Talon is holding a Hondu Berry, it becomes a ground type move and deals a good chunk of damage. Raichu then hits me with a Charge Beam before I can take it out with the Dragon Breath. Then comes his last Pokemon, Luxray, and expecting an Ice Fang, I swap into Killer Frost to take the hit. I then use Earthquake to deal more than half of his health. After eating a Fire Fang, I finish the final gym with one last Earthquake, earning us the Beacon Badge. Afterwards, I go north to receive the Waterfall HM from Jasmine, who's actually from the Johto region. I think it's always cool when a character from another game shows up. Helps make the games feel a bit more connected with each other. Afterwards, I push through Victory Road with little issues other than the crazy amount of wild spawns, and we get to the Pokemon League. But before we can take on the Elite Four, I have to do battle with Barry one last time. He leads Staraptor as I lead the Riddler. I then take out Staraptor with a Thunderbolt. Out comes Heracross, and expecting a Night Slash, I switch to Talon and use Flamethrower, but it doesn't quite kill. The next Flamethrower is able to scorch this beetle, however, and then Barry sends out Floatzel. Expecting Ice Fang, I go into Black Mask, who takes a crunch and is able to hit back with the payback, but I lose some defense in the process. Seeing as I could very much die to the next crunch, I swap into Lady Shiva to tank one. I then use Night Slash to finish off the Floatzel. Then out comes Torterra, so I swap into Talon, who can handle anything that is thrown at it, including this Leaf Storm. One Ice Beam later cracks this turtle wide open. Next is Rapidash, and I swap into the Riddler, but it goes for bounce, so I use this chance to set up a Calm Mind. I then take out Rapidash in one hit with the boosted Psychic. Last is Snorlax, and expecting a crunch, I go into Calculator. I then go for a Drain Punch, which leaves Snorlax on what has to be like 1 HP and lands a Body Slam, and I get paralyzed in the process. I don't take the risk of getting fully paralyzed, so I swap into Killer Frost to eat an Earthquake, and with one Ice Shard, Snorlax falls and ends the last rival fight. I then make my final preparations for the Elite Four, getting my team as close to the level cap as I can before entering. Going into the Elite Four, we have Black Mask the Dusclops, with the moves Payback, Shadow Sneak, Will-O-Wisp, and Confuse Ray. They are carrying a Shell Bell, since Leftovers is an item that's locked behind the post game, and farming berry trees for Munchlax was not on my to-do list. Next is Talon the Altaria, who is carrying Ice Beam, Dragon Pulse, Flamethrower, and Natural Gift. I intend on giving her different berries to help deal super effective damage with Natural Gift, as this move's type is dependent on which berry you hold. Then we have Calculator the Medicham, with Drain Punch, Recover, Return, and Hidden Power Fire. They are holding the Big Root item to help recover more health after using Drain Punch. Then we have the Riddler, a Gardevoir who is running Psychic, Thunderbolt, Calm Mind, and Magical Leaf. They're holding the Mind Plate to boost the power of Psychic. Then we have Lady Shiva the Absol, who has Swords Dance, Rock Tomb, Detect, and Night Slash, carrying the Razor Fang to boost her critical hit chance, and with Night Slash, we can boost our chances for critical hits even more. Last is Killer Frost the Glalie, who knows the moves Ice Shard, Protect, Avalanche, and Earthquake. She is running the Never Melt Ice item to boost the power of ice moves. With this final squad assembled, let's take on the Elite Four. As we enter the halls of the Elite Four and meet Aaron, the Bug-type specialist, who leads Yanmega as I lead Lady Shiva. I can outspeed the Yanmega and one-shot it with the Rock Tomb. Heracross appears once again and I swap to Black Mask to block its close combat. Since this thing's ability is Swarm, I am safe to Will-O-Wisp to cut his attack in half. I then swap to Talon to take a Night Slash, and after using a Flamethrower, another Beetle is roasted. Drapion, the Not Bug, comes out, and expecting Ice Fang, I swap it to Killer Frost and hit it with an Earthquake. Drapion then uses Cross Poison, and Earthquake barely doesn't kill as Aaron heals with the full restore, and another Earthquake brings it down back to below half. He then swaps Drapion for Vespiquen to block my Earthquake. I go into Calculator and take a Resisted Power Gem. I then go into Talon once more, who is holding a Wiki Berry to use a Rock-type Natural Gift. However, because of Defend Order, it only deals half of Vespiquen's health. Vespiquen sets up another Defend Order as I try roasting the Queen with the Flamethrower. It then goes for a Heal Order, repeat twice, and luckily on the 4th Flamethrower, I get a crit to take out Vespiquen. Drapion returns, but since its health is so low, I can take it out with the singular Dragon Pulse. Last is Scizor, who I torch with another Flamethrower. 1 down, 3 to go. Up next is Bertha, the Ground-type specialist, whose team is filled with powerful Pokemon like Rhyperior and Gliscor. She leads Wishcash, who I take out in 1 Magical Leaf with the Riddler. The chunky Hippowdon comes out next, and predicting a crunch, I swap to Lady Shiva, but it goes for a Yawn instead. I then went into Talon, expecting an Earthquake. Then I use Ice Beam to barely leave it in the yellow. I then get hit by a Stone Edge, but then Bertha heals Hippowdon, meaning after 2 more Ice Beams, I can take out this Sandy Hippo. Next is Golem, who can kill me with anything outside of Earthquake. I swap to the Riddler as I take a critical hit Thunder Punch, dealing way more damage than I thought it would do, but then I can take it out with a singular Magical Leaf. Next is the absolutely terrifying Rhyperior. I swap into Black Mask to tank a Mega Horn. I then go for Will-O-Wisp to make it easier to handle, but not before getting smacked by a powerful Earthquake. I then swap to Calculator and take another Earthquake, which even after the burn still does half of my health. I get hit back with the Drain Punch, which just barely doesn't kill, but after taking a critical hit Earthquake, I use another Drain Punch to finish off the Rhyperior. Last is her Gliscor, so I swap it to Killer Frost and I tank an Earthquake. Having no other options without sacking a Pokemon and knowing Ice Shard doesn't kill, I take the risk to go with Avalanche. Barely survive the Earthquake she throws at me at 3 HP and I finish this battle off, barely surviving the encounter with the Gliscor. 2 down, 2 to go. Next is Flint, who, like Volkner, had the unfortunate case of his type being forgotten in Diamond and Pearl of the fact that Game Freak forgot the fire type existed, but they gave him a proper fire team in Platinum. Flint leads Houndoom as I lead Killer Frost. I outspeed and one-shot him with Earthquake. Then out comes Flareon, who I also one-shot with an Earthquake. My sweep stops though with Rapidash, who I swap into Black Mask to tank a Flare Blitz. After tanking 2 of them, I hit the horse back with the Payback, but seeing as I can't tank another one, I swap it to Talon to finish it off with the Dragon Pulse. Magmortar comes out and I use Natural Gift, this time with the Nanab Berry to deal just under half. I then take a Thunderbolt, but seeing as I can't kill with Dragon Pulse, I swap it to the Riddler to tank a Hyper Beam. I then finished off the Magmortar with a Psychic. Last is Infernape, who I also simply nuke with a Psychic, putting out the flame of Flint's team. 3 down, 1 to go. Lucian is the last Elite Four member, but it's actually probably the most simple for me to fight. He leads Mr. Mime as I lead Lady Shiva. I set up a Swords Dance as the Mime sets up a Reflect. I then set up another Swords Dance as the Mime sets up Light Screen. I then take the Mime out with a Night Slash. Gallade shows up but meets the same sad fate Mr. Mime does and falls to a critical hit Night Slash. Alakazam pulls up and attempts to Focus Blast me, but misses, making another victim of the Night Slash massacre. Espeon shows up and hits a Signal Beam, but I manage to survive on just 1 HP, taking out Espeon. But since I'm at a literal single health point, this ends the Sinnoh Night Slash massacre experience as Bronzong comes out as Lucian's last Pokemon. I swap it to Talon to tank a Gyro Ball, and after a few flamethrowers, I'm able to melt this Bell apart, beating the last Elite Four member. However, we still have 1 battle left before we win this Nuzlocke. This trainer is feared across the fandom for being one of the most unforgiving champions to date due to their team build that can handle even the toughest of opponents. This is Cynthia, with a team of consisting of very bulky Pokemon like Spiritomb to Milotic to the Pokemon that can hit harder than the bullet train like Lucario and Garchomp. We have ourselves one of the toughest battles in the entire franchise. So, how do we do this? Well, she leads Spiritomb as I lead Black Mask. I get hit by a Shadow Ball for a crap ton of damage, but I can hit it with the Will-O-Wisp. I then swap to Lady Shiva, who can tank both its Ghost and Dark moves. I then use Detect to pass the turn to chip it down with some more burn damage. I then go for a Night Slash, and with Spiritomb barely living, it lands a Silver Wind, which will take out Lady Shiva. Since I know Cynthia is gonna go for a full restore, I go into the Riddler to set up a Calm Mind. This will help me handle anything it throws at me. I then use a Thunderbolt, tank a Shadow Ball, and take it out with another Thunderbolt. Lucario comes out, but since I can outspeed it, I take it out with a singular Psychic. Then comes her top dog, Garchomp, and seeing as I don't have a single safe swap into anything, I have to sacrifice the Riddler by getting hit by an Earthquake. This opens the opportunity to get Killer Frost out. I barely tank a Dragon Rush, but then I can hit back with an extremely powerful critical hit Avalanche, freezing this Dragon solid. Out comes Togekiss, and knowing that it's gonna take me out this turn, I go for an Ice Shard to reduce her health by a bit, but I manage to get a critical hit Ice Shard, dropping her to about a quarter health. Killer Frost then falls. I can then send in Talon and finish off Togekiss with an Ice Beam. Milotic comes out and I use a Dragon Pulse to deal about a third before Talon is hit with a devastating Ice Beam, but I somehow manage to survive on 3 HP, allowing me to fire off one last Dragon Pulse before she falls. I then send in Calculator to hit her with a Drain Punch to finish off Milotic. Cynthia's last Pokemon is a Roserade. I then hit her with a Return, which barely doesn't kill as I get hit with the Sludge Bomb. Cynthia then full restores Roserade, but her efforts were fruitless as I can finish off Roserade and this entire challenge with one last return. The only survivors of this bloodbath were Calculator and Black Mask. This was the tale of how I beat a Pokemon Platinum Hardcore Nuzlocke by using only Pokemon that originated from the Hoenn region. If you guys want me to do another Nuzlocke challenge like this, then be sure to give this video a like, and if you enjoy what you see on the channel, then be sure to subscribe, as this lets me know that this is the sort of content you guys want. Also, comment down below on what the craziest part of the Nuzlocke was. I would be interested in knowing what you guys think. Also, shout out to the following channel members: The Prodigy Rex, Vertigui, Not Skelly, Carlos Solitaros, Matthew Sumners, Spicy Milk, Bathu, Computer Scientist, Thomas Rask Jensen, Mario, Kevin Solis, Super Sniper, Yob Abutoi, PlayStation 999, The Gaming Duck, Kieran Blaster, Alex HD Gamer 2 Pedraza, Northern Pike, The Nerd, Jeremy Johns, Wolfpack 1030, Duck Up, Osas Marinella, Naruto Uchiha, Tyler, and Shovel. If you want to receive a shout out like these channel members here, then be sure to become a channel member today, and you can also get an exclusive role in my Discord server. For that, you can find the link in the description below. With all that being said, I hope you have a wonderful day.